Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are completely tearing down a massive, massive misconception about power, about dominance, and what it actually means to be a true leader. Okay, let's dive into this because we're going straight into a freezing life or death scenario in the winter of 1992. Picture the scene for a second. The sun is dropping fast over the remote Colorado backcountry, right? The temperature is just plummeting, and wolf expert Oliver Starr is freezing, and he is absolutely exhausted. He's out there with a wolf he had practically raised and truly loved named Jake, along with Jake's mate, Jessa. Now, Jessa is loose. She's playfully scampering around dangerously close to a mountain highway. And Oliver, well, he's losing his patience fast. Frustrated, annoyed, and really just wanting to assert control over the situation, he lunges. He grabs Jessa roughly by the scruff of her neck. And in that absolute split second, everything goes wrong. Jake, completely believing his mate is under attack, launches a sudden, savage assault on Oliver. And this onslaught, it's so incredibly fast that Oliver barely even registers what's happening before the sheer pain hits him like a bolt of lightning. 37. That is the number you really need to wrap your head around here. See, after somehow miraculously staggering 2 entire miles back to his truck and surviving an agonizing ride to a specialized hospital, the doctors put Oliver's x-rays up on the board. His arm was literally crushed. The doctors couldn't even figure out which bone fragments belonged where. We're talking a shredded bicep and 37 separate bone fractures. These are injuries that took more metal rods and pins to piece back together than a car engine. And I bring this brutal reality up right at the start to firmly establish the absolute massive stakes of toxic, aggressive behavior. But here's the craziest part of the story. As Oliver lay there in that hospital bed, completely pumped full of morphine, he realized the most devastating injury wasn't actually physical at all. It was this profound psychological revelation. He realized that his own impatience, his anger, his total obsession with controlling the situation, that's what destroyed a bond of trust that had taken literally years to build. As he put it, he had become the wrong wolf. He was acting out a total stereotype, that of the aggressive, domineering leader who forces compliance. And that brings us perfectly to the core concept we are unpacking in this explainer today, the alpha wolf. We all know the pop culture version of this, right? The relentless competitor, the guy who controls, dominates, and projects pure power to rule through fear. We see this toxic model literally everywhere today. We see it in corporate boardrooms, we see it in locker rooms, we see it driving down the highway. It's this pervasive idea that whoever barks the loudest and bites the hardest, well, they get to be in charge. But what's absolutely fascinating about this entire concept is that it is fundamentally, scientifically, fake. The alpha wolf, as we know it, just isn't real. So you might be wondering, where did we even get this ridiculous idea? Well, it actually originated from these deeply flawed, super outdated scientific studies of captive wolves. What researchers did decades ago was take completely unrelated adult wolves, basically total strangers, and force them together into a small enclosure. Naturally, these animals were absolutely terrified, so they fought constantly. And the biggest, most aggressive wolves obviously rose to the top of this totally artificial hierarchy. Scientists observed this mess and completely misinterpreted a desperate trauma response for natural leadership. But aggressive dominance absolutely does not equal leading. It's just bare-knuckle survival. Which brings us to a tale of 2 very different types of wolves. So, to understand what real leadership actually looks like, we have to look out into the wild. Because out in nature, wolf packs are actually just families. Let's look at Yellowstone. Take Wolf 40, for example. She ruled Yellowstone's Druid Peak pack with an absolute iron paw. She was ruthless. She attacked her own sisters. She even killed pups that weren't hers. Her reign of terror was just so extreme that eventually her own family had enough, and they actually killed her. Now contrast that tyrant with her sister, Wolf 42, and her mate, Wolf 21. They were gentle. They shared their food, they tolerated pup mischief, and they actively encouraged cooperation. Wolf 42 even adopted her dead sister's pups. And this brilliantly illustrates the real difference, because together, 42 and 21 raised one of Yellowstone's largest, most incredibly resilient families. I actually want to pause and focus specifically on Wolf 21 for a second, because his story is just amazing. He became a literal legend in Yellowstone for something you almost never see in the animal kingdom: restraint. Get this, he never lost a single fight, but he never started one either. And most remarkably, he never killed a vanquished rival, even though he easily could have. So the absolutely crucial point here is that true, unshakable power doesn't require crushing your opponents. It doesn't require ruling through intimidation at all. So let's talk about the actual blueprint for benevolent leadership. The real truth is, wild alphas are just parents. Parents who protect and lead their families not through domination, but through altruism and genuine care. Just imagine for a second a massive grizzly bear suddenly approaching a pack of vulnerable pups. How does a real wild alpha react to that? Well, step one, he senses the extreme danger, but he absolutely does not panic. Step two, he actually initiates play. Yeah, play. He does this to calmly capture the pup's attention without terrifying them into scattering. Step three, he gives a specific signal that he's about to regurgitate food, which gets all the pups to eagerly gather right around him. And finally, step four, with his offspring safely gathered up, he calmly moves them all out of harm's way. That right there is elite, high-stakes leadership under extreme pressure, and it's handled entirely with calm direction instead of frantic, aggressive barking. And Oliver Starr actually sees this exact behavior modeled in his own pack of ambassador wolves today. Take a wolf named Icknick. He's this massive, gentle giant. He is enormous and fully physically capable of asserting total dominance over everyone in his pack. But he just doesn't. Instead, he defers gently to the ancient, frail matriarch of the family. When super annoying little pups bite his tail and paw at his face, he responds with playfulness, not punishment. He uses his immense physical power strictly to gently shepherd wandering pups back to safety. He leads quite simply with pure patience. And the wild thing is, the science backs this up completely. Extensive research in Yellowstone by wolf biologists Gordon Haber and Dr. Kira Cassidy confirms the real-world outcomes of these two completely different styles. Those dominant aggressors who try to rule through fear, they have notoriously short-lived reigns. Their leadership almost always ends in a violent rebellion, exactly like we saw with Wolf 40. But the calm mediators, the ones who lead by example and through actual care, their families live longer, they fight way less, and they just genuinely thrive more. Now, I want to bring this right back to you. Let's think about your own life for a second here. Have you ever worked for an alpha? You know the type, someone who led through fear, intimidation, always having to be the loudest voice in the room. Did that boss actually make you a better worker, or did they just make you quieter? Now contrast that. Think of a truly great leader you've had, maybe a favorite teacher, a fantastic boss, or a great coach, someone who made you feel genuinely safe, trusted, and inspired. Honestly ask yourself, which environment did you truly thrive in? Look, we all face high-stress situations. It is totally human nature to want to assert control when things get chaotic and out of hand, but we always have a choice in how we react. So in your next really difficult meeting at work, or when you're stuck in just a maddening, gridlocked traffic jam, or even when you're dealing with a complete and total family meltdown at home, don't let frustration and anger take the wheel. Take a breath, and don't grab the scruff of the neck. Instead, I really want you to remember this simple quote: lead with calm, lead with trust, lead with kindness. This is the ultimate core takeaway from Oliver's harrowing near-death experience, and it's backed by decades of solid biological research. The world really doesn't need any more fake alphas barking orders at everybody. What we actually need are benevolent leaders who use their inherent strength to uplift, to protect, and to gently guide those around them. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, deeply personal question to kind of chew on today. Have you ever been the wrong wolf? Take a moment and really think about what happened when you were. And far more importantly, think about the kind of leader you are going to choose to be tomorrow. Thanks so much for exploring this with me.